All right, back here with CBS Sports combat analyst Brian Campbell. You predicted this, a win for Bivol, and he defeats Canelo via unanimous decision, the plus 400 underdog, handing Canelo just his second loss of his career. What's your reaction?
This was a master class. This was Dmitry Bivol at the peak of what he does well, which is no one looks good against him. He was an unbeaten champion coming in 19-0. We knew he was going to have to show parts of himself that he hasn't shown, given that he's fighting the best fighter in the world in Alvarez, a fighter who's been known to push the pace and get inside on you. The problem is, even though this fight was contested at a close distance, everything Alvarez attempted was shut down by the defense of Bivol. Statistically, Bivol is the best defensive fighter in the game. He also lands the most amount of jabs per round. This was just a masterclass in footwork, technique, and poise from the Russian champion, because you could see the frustration mounting in Alvarez's eyes, even when he was able to get inside. The type of punches he normally lands that breaks opponents down, Bivol just wasn't having it. He was bigger, longer. It looked like he was just as quick as Canelo in terms of hand speed. But most importantly, every time Canelo was able to land one shot, Bivol was answering with 2-3 punch combinations of his own. Look, I scored this fight 11 rounds to 1 in favor of Bivol. I really had to make a stretch to find rounds in which I thought you could award Canelo. Historically, though, as we know, Canelo tends to get the benefit of the doubt from the judges, sometimes because of how efficient he is and how hard his counterpunches land. It went down 7 rounds to 5 in the end on all 3 scorecards, scores that I think were much closer than the fight we saw. But how can you complain when the right guy wins? Both seem to show interest in a rematch afterwards, but if you're Canelo Alvarez, who turned pro at 140 pounds, his rise in weight has been remarkable, but you had to feel eventually he was going to hit his ceiling. How much weight is too much weight? Turns out the same week in which Canelo was entertaining future fights at cruiserweight, maybe even heavyweight, he found a light heavyweight who can take his punch and come back with something even better.
Canelo moved up weight classes, just his second fight at light heavyweight. Perhaps he bit off more than he could chew. What's next for Canelo? Is the trilogy match with Triple G still on the table?
I mean, look, the Bivol said afterwards, sorry to ruin your trilogy with Triple G. The reality is that trilogy has been earmarked for super middleweight, where Canelo, of course, is the undisputed 4-belt champion. Could that still happen in the fall? Yes. But I was surprised to see Alvarez so interested afterwards, at least in the post-fight interview, of the idea of entertaining a rematch. Now, look, he's a competitor. We shouldn't necessarily question his want to come out and best his performance. But again, if you watch that fight critically, it was hard to score more than 1, maybe 2, 3 rounds in Canelo's favor. He was handled all night. It's going to be an uphill battle and an uphill climb to try to, turn the tables. Maybe those close scores give him confidence that he could. But in this fight, Canelo really not able to touch Bivol clean. That was the difference. You know Canelo, as the pound-for-pound king, as the sport's most popular fighter, he can fight anybody he wants at any time. I wonder if he goes back to the negotiation table, looks at those offers, maybe in some weight classes where he's more of a dominant factor. We'll see where he goes. You have to love the intention of Canelo. He dares to be great. Like you mentioned, though, it may have been a bridge too far this time around.
Brian Campbell predicted it would happen, and it happened. A plus 400 underdog, Dmitry Bivol, handing Canelo Alvarez just the second loss of his illustrious career. Good on you, BC, with the prediction. That's the good old knowledge in your mind, money in your pocket there, my friend. Thanks for joining us here on HQ. And for all things combat, check out the award-winning Morning Combat with Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell. You can watch the series on YouTube. You can also listen to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Morning Combat. Download and subscribe today.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.